Mirasee.
I'm Chuck Anderson, and you're listening to Making It. I run a business called eventaffiliates.com, and we help people who run events by recruiting affiliates and partners who will help them fill their events easier and faster than doing it on their own. My grandparents, their families were in the United States, I think in the Utah region. And, in the late 1700s and the early 1800s, they moved from that area up into Canada, into the Alberta region by wagon train. It's interesting when I read the story because many of them didn't survive the trip. It was a very, very difficult trip. And then they found themselves in southern Alberta. And that's where, I think that was 3 generations back or 4. But anyways, planting roots there in southern Alberta. And that's where the farming began. In fact, I saw the house where my dad grew up. So my grandparents and my dad and his 4 sisters living in a house that was basically smaller than a 2-bedroom apartment. And they all made it work. And, it was a very interesting time. I am actually the first generation that didn't become a farmer. But, my dad was a farmer. My grandfather was a farmer. My great-grandfather was a farmer. I don't know too much about how far back that goes, but they were all farmers. I mean, that's what they did. And I was really the first one not to be. I remember at a very young age getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and having to milk 2 cows before coming back to the house, getting cleaned up, getting on the school bus and off to school, do school all day long and then come back. And it was a nonstop thing. And it's interesting because it really hardwired me for, I think, hard work. And, when I first started my business, that's exactly what I did as well. Working from dawn till dusk, get up, work hard all day long, and then until you just can't go anymore, and then call it a quits for the day and do it all again the next day. And so, the farm was interesting. It really taught me a lot about, that work habit, that work ethic, and, putting the effort in. Right out of school, I had friends that were going to university for an engineering degree. I was also interested in engineering, but I was also not interested in, spending years and years and years in university. Like, delayed gratification isn't something that is really strong with me. And I was really fortunate. I applied for a job through an employment agency with an electronics manufacturing company. And then next thing I know, I'm working at an electronics company. Within a few months, I was a supervisor at that company. And then a few months later, the engineers there kind of took me under their wing and, taught me basically engineering just from a work experience point of view. So I just got in there and I just followed the opportunities. And next thing I knew, I was working in an electronics engineering department until I decided that engineering wasn't for me. So I made the decision at that point that I didn't want to work in engineering anymore. All the glory was going to people who could sell. So I went to school I took a class called Professional Selling Skills and another one called Small Business Management, and then started to make the transition out of engineering and into sales. And, after a couple of months of making these phone calls, instead of asking them about their business, I started asking them about them, who they were. Did they have a pet? Did they have a dog? Just starting to get to know the person on the other end of the line. And then suddenly the job became a lot of fun. And, I felt like they were actually pleased to hear from me when they did. And that's when I really, some changes really started to happen in me where I became less about following the steps and following the rules and more about connecting with the person I was doing business with. the expectations of working, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. I was yearning for that freedom that I had when we were on the farm, where our days were not so structured. We were very busy, but if you wanted to stop and have lunch, you could. And there was a lot of choice and a lot of freedom. And I think for me, I really enjoy the discovery, doing something new. And once it sort of became routine, I wasn't really happy with it anymore. And so I left my job and moved back to Vancouver. And at the time, I had been doing sales for a big company, so I considered myself a salesperson. So I answered this job. And, there was a lot of fun. There was a lot of excitement. There was a lot of energy. There was loud music playing in the reception area. And it was different. It was very exciting. I got really wrapped up in that. So I started my business. It was the early days of the internet. And at the time, I was very fortunate to learn how to put websites together and how to sell things online. And then I found myself with a very difficult balance between, how much do I charge? How much time do I have available for this? And so that first year was a lot of just figuring out, where do my customers come from? And, what is my daily routine to be able to make all of this work? And today I'm not doing that exact same business in the exact same way, but I'm still consulting and still helping people with their online businesses, just in a new way, because it's a business that evolves very, very quickly. What making it means to me is, I think, living life on my own terms and not having it sort of dictated to me. I like to think of it as choice. I get to choose every day to be in this business. I get to choose every day what I am doing. And those choices are not being made for me. I firmly believe that making it is really that. It's being able to do what you want to do when you want to do it. And if you don't know how, to be able to find a way and to tap into numerous ways to help you along the way. But I think, for me, the way I define making it is, am I doing what I want to do today, or is this being dictated to me? And as long as I'm doing that, I really do feel successful and I feel like I've made it. One of the main lessons from my journey is nobody really accomplishes anything alone, and relationships are the most important thing. And early in my career, I thought it was all about, doing your job and doing your job really, really well. And if you do your job really, really well, you're going to get noticed and recognized for that. And then you're going to get more opportunities. And when I approached it that way, things were very, very difficult because there was no connection. Learning that success in the company, success in sales, success in business was all about the people that I was working with, getting to know them, getting very strong relationships, whether it be clients or partnerships or friends or whatever. The relationship that you build with the people that you work with is the most important thing. And people really value when you ask them about themselves. They want to tell you about themselves and to be genuinely curious. And that wasn't really obvious to me in the beginning, but has been huge for me along that way. So the relationships, learning that relationships are the most important thing has been the biggest lesson I've learned. I'm Chuck Anderson, and you've been listening to Making It. You can find me at chuckandersoncoaching.com.
Making It is part of the Mirasee FM podcast network, which also includes such shows as Course Lab and Just Between Coaches. This episode of Making It was produced by Danny Bermant and Geoff Govertsen. Cynthia Lamb is a supervising producer. Danny Inney is our executive producer. Post-production by Post Office Sound. So you catch the great episodes that are coming up on Making It, go ahead and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening right now. And if you like the show, please leave us a starred review. It's the best way to help us get these ideas to more people. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.